A legacy of, a legacy of darkness. Secrets of the Unbound Tome, a timeless tales creation. The smell of old books and the hushed whispers of students seeking knowledge were the usual companions of my solitary walks through the university library. Tonight, however, they were joined by the unwelcome prickling of loneliness. Rejected once more from the social circle of the normal students, I found myself drawn deeper into the labyrinthine stacks, seeking solace in the dusty silence between towering bookshelves. There, tucked away in a forgotten corner, I stumbled upon it, an unassuming wooden door, its surface intricately carved with symbols that sent a shiver down my spine. They were arcane symbols, whispered about in hushed tones by fellow students interested in the occult, a world I'd always felt a strange pull towards. Curiosity gnawed at me. I knew this wasn't just any door. It was a portal to something hidden, something forbidden. My heart pounded in my chest as I placed my hand on the cool wood, its surface rough beneath my fingertips. With a deep breath, I pushed. The door creaked open, revealing a chamber shrouded in darkness. Moonlight filtered through a single narrow window, illuminating rows upon rows of ancient books. Their leather covers, worn and cracked, spoke of countless hands that had turned their pages, seeking knowledge and perhaps power. My breath hitched in my throat as I stepped across the threshold. The air in the room was thick with the scent of aged paper and a potent energy I couldn't quite define. It pulsed around me, drawing me closer to the books, their pages filled with cryptic symbols and incantations that seemed to dance and shimmer in the moonlight. I ran my fingers over their spines, feeling the magic trapped within their aged pages. Some of the symbols resonated within me, stirring memories of forbidden lore whispered in the shadows, stories of magic and power beyond human comprehension. My fingertips brushed against a book bound in black leather. Its surface was cold, but thrummed with a hidden energy. Drawn by an unseen force, I pulled it from the shelf, the leather creaking in protest. As I opened it, a wave of raw power washed over me, intoxicating and exhilarating. My eyes scanned the ancient script, the words flowing through me, each syllable a whispered promise of power. I could feel it within the book, a force waiting to be unleashed, yearning for a vessel to channel its magic. Without a second thought, I began to read the incantations aloud. The words rolled off my tongue, strange and powerful, echoing through the silent chamber. As I spoke, I felt a surge of energy course through my veins, filling me with an exhilarating sense of control. It was as if I had tapped into a hidden reservoir of power, an ancient magic waiting to be awakened. My fingertips tingled, my heart pounded in my chest, and a smile spread across my face. This was it. This was the power I had always craved, the power to change myself, to change the world. At that moment, I knew my life would never be the same. The days blurred together in a whirlwind of ancient script, incantations whispered aloud, and the intoxicating allure of power. The books in the hidden chamber became my world, their pages filled with secrets that whispered promises of unimaginable abilities. I devoured them with an insatiable hunger. Each spell learned a step closer to the pinnacle of magic. My initial attempts were clumsy, tentative explorations into the unknown. I practiced with simple spells, igniting sparks that danced across my fingertips and sent shivers through my body. The feeling of control was exhilarating, a far cry from the powerless frustration that had colored my everyday life. Confidence bloomed within me like a rare flower. I moved on to more complex incantations, my voice resonating with newfound authority as I commanded the very fabric of reality. Candle flames danced to my will, objects levitated with a flick of my wrist, and the whispers of the wind carried my unspoken desires. However, with each successful attempt, a subtle shift occurred within me. The shadows seemed to deepen around my eyes, taking on an unnatural glow that reflected the power coursing through my veins. The books themselves seemed to change under my gaze, the once faded symbols pulsing with an ominous light, whispering promises of even greater power. One night, as I pored over a particularly intricate spell, the whispers grew louder, more insistent. They spoke of ancient pacts and forbidden rituals, of worlds hidden beyond the veil of reality, and of a destiny waiting to be fulfilled. "Are you ready, Elias?" the voice rasped, echoing from the very walls of the chamber. "Are you ready to claim your rightful place as a master of the arcane?" The temptation was overwhelming. The ostracized life I endured, the constant ridicule and loneliness, all seemed to melt away in the face of this promised power. It was a chance to rewrite my destiny, to become someone worthy of respect and admiration. "Do it," the voice urged, its seductive tones dripping like honey. "Unleash the true potential that lies dormant within you. Become more than just Elias, the ostracized boy. Become something greater, something powerful." My fingers trembled as they hovered over the ancient script, the decision hanging heavy in the air. I closed my eyes, remembering the warnings tucked away within the pages of the books, the cautionary tales of those who had succumbed to the intoxicating allure of unchecked magic. Their faces flashed before me, ghosts consumed by the very power they sought. Their pleas echoed in the chamber, a chilling counterpoint to the seductive whispers of the voice. With a deep breath, I tore my gaze from the book, the words blurring into meaningless symbols. "No," I whispered, the sound barely audible in the stillness of the chamber. "I will not be consumed." A wave of disappointment washed over me, a deep longing for the power that I had so desperately craved. However, it was quickly replaced by a sense of relief, a newfound appreciation for the precarious balance between power and control. The voice, sensing my rejection, fell silent. The pulsating light in the symbols faded, and the shadows receded into the corners of the chamber. The books, once seductive, now seemed to watch me with wary eyes, their secrets safeguarded for another day. My journey had just begun, and the path ahead would be fraught with danger. But at that moment, I made a vow to myself. I would not become another victim of unchecked ambition, another soul consumed by the darkness that lurked within the pages of the forbidden books. I would walk the tightrope between power and control, using the magic for good, while remaining ever vigilant against the darkness that threatened to consume me. It would be a constant struggle, a dance on the edge of a knife. But it was a challenge I was determined to overcome. For I was Elias, the ostracized boy, but I was also something more. I was a student of the arcane, a potential master of magic, and I would not let that power consume me. A hunger gnawed at me, a relentless craving for more power. The forbidden knowledge I had tasted was like an addictive drug, its alluring whispers echoing in my mind even as I lay awake at night, the shadows dancing on the walls of my small dormitory room. My studies, once a source of solace, became increasingly irrelevant. My friends, their concerns and gossip faded into the background noise of my life. All that mattered was the magic, the raw power that surged through my veins and promised to make me more than just Elias, the ostracized boy. I pushed myself further, delving into forbidden rituals and experimenting with spells beyond my capabilities. The warnings in the books, once dismissed as mere cautionary tales, now seemed like distant echoes in the face of my insatiable hunger. The dark influence, subtle at first, began to solidify within me. My eyes, once bright with curiosity, now burned with an unnatural intensity, reflecting the growing darkness within. I became arrogant and ruthless, wielding my newfound power like a weapon against anyone who dared to question me. One night, under the cold gaze of the moon, I attempted a spell so powerful it sent shivers down my spine even as I recited the incantation. The air crackled with energy, the room vibrating with anticipation. Then, with a deafening roar, the fabric of reality tore open, and a monstrous entity, its form a twisted mockery of life itself, materialized from the swirling portal. Panic seized me as I realized the magnitude of my error. This was not the power I had craved. It was a nightmare unleashed, a creature of pure destruction, hungry for chaos. The whispers in the books, once seductive, now sounded like mocking laughter echoing in my ears. The creature, sensing my fear, roared in triumph and unleashed its fury upon the university. Buildings trembled, screams filled the air, and flames erupted from shattered windows. The very foundation of the world seemed to shake as the creature rampaged, reveling in the destruction it wrought. I knew I was responsible, that my thirst for power had unleashed this chaos. Guilt gnawed at me, a cold, heavy weight in my chest. But there was no time for self-pity. I had to stop this, even if it meant sacrificing myself. With a surge of determination, I channeled the last of my magic, fueled by desperation and a desperate hope for redemption. The air crackled around me as I faced the entity, my voice a defiant roar against its deafening screeches. But amidst the despair, a spark of hope flickered. It was a fragile thing, easily extinguished, but it was enough to keep me moving forward. I knew I had to fight against the darkness, not just for myself, but for those I had hurt, for the world I had nearly destroyed. The choice was clear. I could succumb to the darkness, embrace the power it offered, and become the monster I had always feared. Or I could choose the path of redemption, a path fraught with hardship and uncertainty, but one that promised a chance to atone for my sins and rebuild the world I had broken. With a heavy heart, I returned to the hidden library. The chamber, once a source of fascination and power, now felt like a tomb, a reminder of the terrible mistakes I had made. The books, once alluring, now seemed to leer at me, their pages filled with forbidden secrets and whispers of darkness. But I knew what I had to do. I had to destroy them, to sever the link between our world and the dark realm that they held open. It was the only way to ensure that the tragedy would never repeat itself. As I raised my hand, the magic surged through me, but this time it felt different. It was not the raw, chaotic power that I had once wielded, but a controlled, focused energy fueled by a desperate desire for redemption. The books ignited, their pages consumed by flames fueled by guilt and regret. The smell of burning paper filled the air, acrid and sharp, but strangely comforting. It was the smell of destruction, but also of purification, of a chance to start anew. As the flames died down, leaving behind only ashes and charred remains, I felt a profound shift within me. The darkness that had once threatened to consume me receded, replaced by a newfound sense of peace and purpose. The magic was gone, but it didn't matter. I had learned a valuable lesson, one etched deep into my soul. True power wasn't found in spells and incantations, but in responsibility, self-control, and the courage to face the consequences of one's actions. The road ahead was uncertain, the path to rebuilding trust long and arduous. But I was no longer the arrogant boy who yearned for power. I was Elias, a changed man, a man who had learned the hard way that true redemption comes not from magic, but from the strength of the human spirit. The silence of the rebuilt library was a stark contrast to the chaos I left in its wake. Years had passed since the incident, years dedicated to healing the wounds I inflicted and rebuilding the broken trust. The university, once a symbol of knowledge and learning, now stood as a silent monument to the destructive power of unchecked magic. Standing before a new generation of students, I felt a familiar tightness in my chest. Gone were the reckless thrill of forbidden knowledge and the arrogance of self-proclaimed power. In their place, a deep-seated responsibility and a burning desire to guide others away from the darkness I had myself embraced. My words were measured, each syllable a hard-won lesson gleaned from the ashes of my past. I spoke not of spells and incantations, but of the dangers that lurked beneath the surface of the occult, the seductive whispers that promised power but ultimately led to destruction. Their faces were a tapestry of curiosity and cautious fear, reflecting the conflicting emotions I had once harbored myself. In their eyes, I saw a spark of the same yearning for knowledge that had driven me down a dangerous path, and it was that spark that fueled my determination. I knew I couldn't erase the past, but I could use it to illuminate the future. By sharing my experiences, stripping away the allure of forbidden magic, and revealing its true cost, I hope to prevent others from repeating my mistakes. Knowledge is a powerful tool, I said, my voice echoing in the hushed room, but like any tool, it can be used for good or evil. It is up to each of us to wield it responsibly, to understand the consequences of our actions, and to choose a path that leads to understanding and enlightenment, not darkness and destruction. The students listened intently, their eyes wide with a mixture of fascination and trepidation. Their questions were hesitant at first, but as I spoke more, their anxieties eased, replaced by a genuine desire to learn. I shared my story, not in self-pity, but as a cautionary tale. I spoke of the alluring whispers of power, the intoxicating sense of control, and the seductive promises of forbidden knowledge. But I also spoke of the price of such power, the devastating consequences of unchecked ambition, and the heavy burden of guilt and remorse. As the session ended, the students filed out, their expressions filled with thoughtful contemplation. I saw in their eyes a flicker of understanding, a recognition of the dangers I had faced. The road to redemption was long and arduous, but at that moment I felt a glimmer of hope. Perhaps, by sharing my story, by offering a glimpse into the darkness I had encountered, I could help others navigate the treacherous path of the occult and emerge stronger, wiser, and more enlightened. Perhaps the legacy of my mistakes wouldn't be just the scars of destruction, but a beacon of knowledge and a shield against the shadows that lurked beyond the veil. Perhaps, in the hands of responsible minds, knowledge could become a force for good, protecting the world from the darkness that threatened to consume it. And that, I realized, was a legacy worth striving for. It was a legacy built not on power and magic, but on responsibility, understanding, and the enduring hope for a brighter future. A future where the lessons of the past would guide us toward a world of light and knowledge. If you liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel.